Welcome to Open Studio with ManMakeMachine. My name is Buntu Sitole, and today we are discussing the fourth industrial revolution, the revolution that is bound to change your life pretty soon. Today we'll be discussing the internet solutions which are pretty much needed for the fourth industrial revolution to work. And I have my two guests here that are an industry, which is Kunrad Lobsha from ManMakeMachine and Sabrina Abba from Wish. And now we are going to watch a clip from FTD Facts that will be explaining the internet and how it connects one nation to the next.
What's happening, guys? My name is Leroy. Welcome to another edition of FTD Facts. Now the question is, how many hours do you spend a day on the internet? Now if you're like me, you probably spend maybe 18 to 20 hours a day on the internet. Now you're probably wondering, how on earth could somebody spend that much time in front of a screen every single day? Well, it may not be as hard to believe after you understand exactly what the internet is. We use it every day to access our emails and various websites. You're using it right now to watch this video, unless you downloaded it to your computer or something and are watching it there, but in that case you don't count. The internet is so integral to our society right now, but how does it work? What actually is the internet? Where is it? And why is it? In a nutshell, the internet is the biggest computer network in the entire world, connecting millions of computers and devices. Now, a network is a group of two or more computer systems linked together. Now, before we continue, for most people, when you mention the word internet, right away they're thinking the World Wide Web, and in many cases, the words are used interchangeably, but the internet and the World Wide Web are not exactly the same thing. The internet is a physical network of computers around the world. The World Wide Web, however, is a virtual network of websites connected by links. These websites are stored on servers on the internet. So the World Wide Web is a part of the internet. They're not the same thing. Now let's break down the type of internet connections that make up the internet. First, we have the local area connection, or you may see LAN for short. Now these are two or more computers that are connected. Now the keyword is local. So these computers are connected but very close together, also cover a very small area, maybe like in an office space or in a house. Now the wide area network, or WAN for short, it consists of two or more local area networks. Now these computers are further apart. They can be connected through multiple types of wires, and the internet is the largest wide area network that exists. Now both LAN and WAN connections can be connected through wireless radio signals if you set up Wi-Fi connections, but we'll save the explanation of what Wi-Fi is and all that good stuff for another video. Okay, so we understand that multiple computers can be connected. Cool. Also, we see that the internet is a physical connection of any or all the computers that exist in the world, and those connections can be made through cables or radio signals, but that still doesn't explain where all these pretty online web pages and videos come from. How are we able to see them? We have to take a look at the virtual network now, and how it relates to the internet. So let's start off by defining servers and clients. You'll understand how they relate a lot easier once we break down what servers and clients are. A server is pretty much a computer that serves various computers in a network by using specialized software, and also they store information. So for example, the web pages, YouTube videos, all the photos and stuff, those are stored on a server. Now when you access these pages on your computer is then acting as a client that requests information, and how a client requests information is through a software, maybe a web browser, and it communicates with the servers to relay that information. In peer-to-peer or P2P networks, however, your computer can act as the client and the server. You can find this with programs like uTorrent or Skype. When you have an internet connection, you can access other people's computers and files. You can send files, access the World Wide Web, which is the virtual connection of websites stored on the servers. And these websites use various languages such as HTML and JavaScript to look and function a certain way. Once the World Wide Web is accessed using your client, information is requested and sent to your screen. But still, where is the internet? It's anywhere two or more computers are connected. And mobile devices fall into the category of computers, by the way. So if you are connected through Wi-Fi or through your mobile service provider, and you're receiving those Twitter and Facebook alerts, in a sense are on the internet. You're using it. So you see, you spend a lot more hours on the internet than you might think. So I hope that answers your question on where the internet is, what is the internet, why is it, how is it. Thank you guys so much for watching FTD Facts. Don't forget to tune in each and every single week for more facts on any type of subject that you want, and let me know, what do you want to learn about next, and we'll do a video on it. Until next time guys, I'm Leroy Kenton. Peace out.
That was an awesome clip from FTD Facts about the internet and how it works. I'm ecstatic about it and it looks so crazy to me, but I know that Conrad and Sabrina here will be able to actually explain a bit more about it. They will be introducing themselves real quick and then we'll talk about a few devices after the break as well. Conrad, tell us more about yourself.
Well, I know I don't have much time, so I'll have to cut it short. I discovered the internet playing in my dad's office. He was a lecturer at a university, University of Zululand. Oh, and nice. And at first it was just email, but I quickly figured out all the documentation and things that I needed to understand it, I could find on the internet itself. So I could teach myself how it worked. And then fast forward a few years, I found myself in a situation where I wanted the internet to learn about something, and I was staying in a small flat in Stellenbosch, and I couldn't afford the internet. Wow. So I had to figure out a way to connect myself to the internet. All the university residences had internet, but I wasn't in a residence, so my rent at the time was 800 Rand a month, and the cheapest internet connection I could get was 2,500 Rand a month.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk more about that a bit after the break, but Sabrina, please introduce yourself.
I'm Sabrina Alba. I'm the coordinator for WISH, which is Wireless Internet Services and Hardware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Conrad, you can talk a bit more and tell me what's happening.
Well,
with the devices.
In 2003, I saw Wi-Fi for the first time.
Yeah.
And because I knew how the internet had grown, I realized that how easy it would be to create my own little internet just using Wi-Fi.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, so we have to go to an ad break. After the break, we'll discuss a bit more about the devices on the table here. They look awesome. I love them. But yeah, cool. So guys, you're chilling with ManMakeMachine, the show that is pretty cool, and my name is Bun, and you can talk to us at ManMakeMachine and ask us more questions. So right now, I am going to ask my guests a few questions about internet solutions. Sabrina, tell me more about WISH.
We are just a company that we're trying to make internet services easier and affordable. So the main reason why I joined WISH is where I come from. It's a bit difficult for us to really get the internet services.
Where do you come from?
I come from Malawi.
Yeah, tell us more.
I'm from Malawi. So we have some areas whereby we don't have the internet network. You have to actually find a right spot where your phone's going to get the network from sometimes others have to even climb up a tree. So it's not easy. It hasn't been easy. That's the main reason why I joined WISH. So we could try and see how we help each other, and then maybe we get there and help connect the internet and make life easier for everyone.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Affordable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Conrad, tell us more about yourself and ManMakeMachine, and what is Wi-Fi, and what's the difference between Wi-Fi and LTE, for instance, and 4G and all of that? What is the open spectrum? Tell us, yeah.
So I think the most important thing is to realize that those are just names for the same thing.
Okay.
And that thing is communication.
Yeah.
It's just different ways for us to exchange information or to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we use apps to send messages to each other, and those messages get translated into signals. And those signals are just like different forms of light. It's invisible light that we can't see. Our eyes are maybe too small to see this light, but these antennas on the table here can actually see it and translate it into the messages and the data that we use on our phones and our computers.
Okay, that is awesome. Yeah, so that's the difference between LTE and Wi-Fi. Because now,
So-
from what I understand, is that there's something called open spectrum and then closed spectrum, if I may say. So if you could just explain to us what happened there, why is there open spectrum? And for instance, I can use my phone to, personal hotspot people. So what's up with that?
Okay, so if you're in a room with a lot of people talking, you have to shout really loud to hear the person next to you.
Yeah.
And this is the same kind of problem with all this this telecommunications equipment, is that when it's transmitting or receiving, it's like a person talking, but it's in a different range that we can't pick up. So in order for companies to be able to guarantee that the message will be heard, they need to reserve some space in the air for their message to get through. So I think you can think about it like a huge highway with lots of lanes in it.
Okay.
So some companies get pre-allocated lanes where only their messages are allowed to drive. But then there's some shared lanes where anybody can drive. So that's the main difference between LTE and Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi equipment all share the shared lanes, the license-exempt frequencies.
Okay.
And LTE, the mobile network operators need to pay a reserve price in order to reserve that lane for themselves.
And I imagine ICASA handles all of that. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a regulatory authority who makes sure that I don't go and drive in a big company's lane and interfere with their network and cause network and signal problems for their customers.
My next question was actually about that. So how will the Wi-Fi world, for instance, if I may say, affect the closed spectrum, the companies, the big companies that you're talking about? How will it affect them? How will it affect South Africa and the world? And how will it change the world,
So
especially Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I think it might be easy to think that Wi-Fi is going to compete with them or put them out of business or make their lives more difficult. But I think the weird thing about life and the way things work is, in a way, the more we share, the more we all have. It doesn't seem to make sense, but everything that I've studied and that I've seen points to that's really the way things work. So I think the fact that we have Wi-Fi actually gives these bigger companies a much bigger market, and it allows them to sell much greater capacity, and there's a bigger need for the infrastructure. There might be some problems with their business models or the way that they market it, or the way they try to monetize it so that they can afford to continue installing better and newer hardware. But ultimately, I think it benefits everybody.
Awesome. So Sabrina, what do you think about what Conrad has said now? How do you think this Wi-Fi will change, Malawian lives in South Africa, or anyone in Africa, actually?
It would really, really change a lot. It would make a very big impact on everybody and everything, because at least it's going to make our lives much easier, like I said, because at the end of the day, it's really hard to get the networks, and then on top of that, we buy the airtime at a higher price, just because probably it's just trying to take advantage of the fact that there's nothing around, so you have to get it whether you like it or not. So guys, my biggest question now is, what would you tell the kid in the township that that wants to join, building a Wi-Fi community network, for instance? What would you say to him, and would they be able to actually build one from scratch without anybody's help, or what kind of help do they need? And also, what's the difference between these two devices, the Match X and the Unify?
Okay, well, to answer your first question.
Yeah?
Well, firstly, I think it's important to know why you want it. Do you just want, even if you just want Wi-Fi to watch videos online, that's a good enough reason. I think a better reason would be so you can learn and you can understand the world better, and you can solve bigger problems that can help more people have more comfortable lives, maybe, or more fulfilling lives. So, but I also think a very important thing to know is that it takes one person to grab an idea and to run with it and to make it happen. But not one person that can do it all. You need a team around you, and you need to be able to work with even the people you think who are competing with you are actually the people who are probably best suited to help you if you can work together.
Ah, that's true, that's true. Tell me more about these two devices again, the Unify and the MatchX, because I know that the MatchX is a device that's called LoRa, and the Unify is the open spectrum device, right? An access point.
Yes, so they're different communication networks that serve different needs.
Okay.
Some, for example, if you have a chat application and you want to be able to send videos on it, you need to be able to send a lot of data through that. So Wi-Fi and LTE is much more suited to that. But then there are other applications as well, such as metering. Maybe an electricity meter just needs to send or receive 1 or 2 messages a day to see how much units have you used, or how much do you need to contribute to the electricity network because of what you have consumed in order to sustain the network or to grow the network.
Yeah.
So that's where things like LoRa and Sigfox and narrowband IoT comes in to solve those machine applications. So it's like an internet for devices and machines.
Okay, awesome. So guys, that'll be a wrap, and now we'll be going to an ad break, and then after we come back, we'll talk a bit more about the week. And we're back, guys. So now we are going to talk about the utility week that happened last week. Tell us more, Conrad. What happened there? Why were there so many Chinese companies coming to show us their, products and coming to sell it in, whereas we could have been manufacturing these products within South Africa for ourselves? And for instance, a company like ManMakeMachine does these solutions, but why do we also look for, these devices from China? Tell us more.
Well, so I think we're in a very privileged position that we have this convention center in Cape Town, because it gives us a little bit of exposure to things. If it wasn't for the convention center, the only way that we would have been able to get access to some of the technology and some of the skills and an understanding of these industries would be to spend a lot of money and a lot of time traveling the world and meeting with various people. And we have this convention center, and almost every other week there's another huge industry conference happening right here in Cape Town. And so the convention is focused around solutions for all of Africa. So there were people from all over Africa there. But what it really drives home is how many different companies it takes to create just a simple solution. And I think if you really try to consider the scale, utilities are things like electricity, municipal electricity companies and telecommunications. So Utility Week isn't even for telecommunications. Telecommunications companies have their own conference, and their conferences all over the world, almost every other week. But when you go to these, you start talking to people there, you realize what kind of problems they deal with. And the biggest problem for a lot of them is how to deal with a huge number of devices or customers. I think the average mobile network has a few million customers. I mean, me personally, I have trouble maintaining relationships with 50 customers. And so how do you build an organization that can maintain relationships with millions of customers?
Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So tell me more about what have you done for the communities, especially in rural areas, because I've heard what you've done there in Mankosi and Zitulele, and then also what you're doing in Khayelitsha with VPU and Ineti and Wakoma. So tell me more about that.
Well, so I because there was a time in my life that I couldn't afford internet access, and because of the many ways in which it's helped me, I've learned almost everything I know by studying and watching videos and reading documents and manuals on the internet. When I was a kid, I used to go to the bookstore, and I couldn't afford the books, so I would stand in the bookstore and make notes and try to memorize things from the books. And the internet gives you access to all of that for free from anywhere. So that was very exciting to me, and that's an opportunity that I think everybody should have access to. So, and the traditional business models seem to have a problem in serving areas and communities that are not very well off, or that do not primarily work with cash. So to go back to one of your earlier questions about Utility Week, why were there so many Chinese manufacturers there? I was lucky in that we became good friends with a Taiwanese person over the last few years here in Cape Town, and she invited us to her wedding. So we could go to Taiwan to go to a wedding, and visiting the East was amazing. You know, everywhere you go, there's about 10 to 100 times as many people as anywhere you go in South Africa.
Yeah, so it's like, that's where you kind of get these kind of devices, which is what I'd actually like you to explain a bit more, especially the Toto here and what that device is.
So the thing about the East is there are so many more people, and the economies are so much more developed than ours. It's much easier for a company with the same amount of effort that you would have had to spend here to just do something small with that same amount of effort. If you were based in China or in India, you would have a much greater impact, and there would be a much bigger market and a lot more potential customers or people contributing or buying your services.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So when it comes to ISPs or internet service providers, there's so many of them in South Africa. How do you choose between them? How do you find the best one? I know there's something called WAPA as well. So you can tell me just a bit more about that. And I know Sabrina knows about WAPA, but let's hear from you, Conrad, because you know quite a bit more.
Well, so I realized that, you know, you don't have to have a degree in order to build a network. It's just a network is just devices connected to each other with wires. And it's pretty easy to connect all the devices together. What's difficult is to monitor the devices or to understand how to configure them. So I was also very lucky to be invited by a rural community to come and help them to improve their network. And I learned firsthand how possible it is for even illiterate people to build a network, and that gives them access to, if it's a really good network, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. They can even watch videos and learn how to read and write from videos just from having the internet.
Awesome. So Sabrina, I know that you've helped us a lot, building networks. So what was your experience with it all? Did you find it cool? Or?
Very nice, very cool actually, very exciting, and yeah, we're looking forward to do more.
Okay, cool. So guys, how do we get a hold of you? Facebook?
You can search for me on the internet, or if you
Conrad
search for...
Yes. Right? Yeah. And Sabrina?
You can search for me on Facebook or email.
Awesome, Sabrina. Guys, thank you so much for coming to the show. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate that you are very busy as well, and you still came over. So thanks a lot. And guys, that will be a wrap. Next time we'll be discussing some other cooler things when it comes to internet and how do you source devices from China. Thanks.